Praise God. Well, thanks for joining me. We're in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, now going on to verse number 7. As we continue this chapter on love, Paul speaking here, he says, love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. This is telling us the persistence, the perseverance of love, bearing up under disappointment, pressure. Love continues to hold on, believing and hoping for the best, enduring whatever difficult circumstances there may be. And he goes on, he says, love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they're going to cease. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to cease now. As for knowledge, it will pass away. Now, knowledge hasn't passed away. As I said, some people use this verse to tell us that, well, tongues are going to cease. But this refers to the future, as we will see in a verse coming up. Paul is trying to get across to the church the message here. Let's get back to chapter 12. He's showing a more excellent way than people, looking to spiritual gifts as a way to show up their spirituality and show off their spirituality. Paul is saying, whatever gifts of the Spirit is manifesting in your life, tongues, the interpretation of tongues, and prophecy, and healing, and miracles, he says, I want to show you something that surpasses all those gifts, and it's love. And he's trying to tell us here that, well, love is going to outlast everything else. You have prophecies, yes, but they're going to pass away. Tongues are going to cease someday. Knowledge also is going to pass away. He says, for we know in part, we prophesy in part. When the perfect comes, that is when we see Jesus face to face, when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. The tongues are going to pass away. The prophecies are going to pass away. And he says, look, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish things. As believers, we need to walk in maturity. Understand, people who would just show off in spiritual gifts, basically it's a sign of spiritual immaturity, because the mature believer understands love definitely is greater than everything else. So you want to put away all the childish thinking, the immature thinking, and be adults, be mature men and women. He says, look, now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face when we see Jesus. Now I know in part. No one has full knowledge, full understanding now. He says, then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. So Paul is telling us that what we have here is temporary, is partial. All these spiritual gifts, they're going to fade away. Love is never going to fade away. He says, so now faith, hope, and love abide. These three, but the greatest of these is love. What's greater than faith? Love. What's greater than hope? Is love. Love supersedes everything. God is love, for God so loved the world. And he wants us to love everyone around us too, believers and unbelievers. Praise God.